Okay, this time we've got this lovely green and gold book here called The Idyll of the White Lotus. And I just love this gold lettering for the title here, with the dots in the middle of the D's and the O's, and then we've got this border at the top with a gold line and some other impressed lines. And then we have this really, really beautiful cover illustration here showing a white lotus springing out of a pond. And you can see that the flower here has been colored in with sort of a silver coloring. And then we can see the gold used again for the reflection off of the pond water. And if we take a look at the spine, we can see that that top border also carries over onto the spine. And then we have the title, and then also another decoration, a gold decoration showing the lotus flower there. And then the border on the bottom as well. And the back, it doesn't really have much to note there. There's no designs or anything, just a solid cover. And then this is really great. There's a gold on all of the edges of the paper. So on the top here, there's a gilding, and then there's also gilding on this side as well. And on the base too. You can see that reflected in the light there. The gold is still pretty strong. The corners of the covers are worn a bit. And then here's the Endpapers. Not very remarkable, but I did notice that there's something that's sort of covered up here in the book, and I'm not sure what it is, because it doesn't look like this has been reconstructed or anything, but there's a pattern that's sort of hidden underneath this, and I'm too afraid to try to peel anything back to view it further, just because I don't want to damage the book. But I'm curious to know what that pattern is and why it's there, or if this book may have been rebuilt at some point or repaired. It's possible that these Endpapers are new Endpapers. So going further in, we can see a pencil note here showing that it's a first edition. Then here's the brief title. It's got a pen signature from the previous owner, or one of the previous owners. And then we have the full title page, The Idyll of the White Lotus. The Idyll of the White Lotus by M.C., Fellow of the Theosophical Society. And M.C., that stands for Mabel Collins, who was a Fellow of the Theosophical Society, as it says. And she wrote a number of other books. The most famous other book is probably one called A Light on the Path. But she also wrote one called The Sun Moves Northward. And we can see that this was published in 1884 by London Reeves and Turner. And we also have a little stamp note showing Occult Publishing Co., Boston, Massachusetts. So that was probably somebody who sold it later. And this is the dedicatory page. It says, to the true author, the inspirer of this work, it is dedicated. I love the sort of Gothic font for it is dedicated. And here's the preface. It says, the ensuing pages contain a story which has been told in all ages and among every people. It is the tragedy of the soul. Attracted by desire, the ruling element in the lower nature of man, it stoops to sin. Brought to itself by suffering, it turns for help to the redeeming spirit within. And in the final sacrifice, achieves its apotheosis and sheds a blessing on mankind. And each of the chapters or sections begins with a decoration. Here we can see what looks like two griffins guarding either side of this chalice in the middle here, which is sort of overflowing with all of that plant life. So the Idyll of the White Lotus, Prologue. And we've got a beautiful initial capital there. It says, behold, I stood alone, one among many, an isolated individual in the midst of a united crowd. And I was alone, because among all the men, my brethren, who I knew, I alone was the man who both knew and taught. I taught the believers at the gate, and was driven to do this by the power that dwelled in the sanctuary. I had no escape, for in that deep darkness of the most sacred shrine I beheld the light of the inner life, and was driven to reveal it, and by it was I upheld and made strong. For indeed, although I died, it took 10 priests of the temple to accomplish my death, and even then they but ignorantly thought themselves powerful. And then we've got this design here just showing a decoration at the base. And then we've got another decoration here showing 2 cherubs on either side of this shield with what looks like a fleur-de-lis in the middle there. Also surrounded by what looks like grapevines. So Book 1, Chapter 1. Another capital letter here. It says, "Ere my beard had become a soft down upon my chin, I entered the gates of the temple to begin my novitiate in the order of the priesthood." My parents were shepherds outside the city. I had never but once entered within the city walls until the day my mother took me to the gate of the temple. It was a feast day in the city, and my mother, a frugal and industrious woman, thus fulfilled 2 purposes by her journey. She took me to my destination, and then she departed to enjoy a brief holiday amid the sights and scenes of the city. I was enthralled by the crowds and noises of the streets. I think my nature was always one that strove to yield itself to the great whole of which it was such a small part, and by yielding itself to draw back into it the sustenance of life. And it continues, it says, "But out of the bustling throng we soon turned. We entered upon a broad green plain, upon the further side of which ran our sacred beloved river. How plainly I behold that scene still. On the banks of the water I saw the sculptured roofs and glittering ornaments of the temple, and its surrounding buildings shining in the clear morning air. I had no fear, for I had no definite expectations, but I wondered much whether life within those gates was as beautiful a thing as it seemed to me it must be. At the gate stood a black-robed novice speaking to a woman from the city, who carried flasks of water which she urgently prayed one of the priests to bless. She would then have for sale a precious burden, a thing paid dearly for by the superstitious populace. I peeped through the gate as we stood waiting for our turn of speech, and beheld a sight that struck me with awe. That awe lasted a long time, even when I had entered into almost hourly familiarity with a figure which so impressed me. It was one of the white-robed priests, pacing slowly down the broad avenue towards the gate. I had never seen one of these white-robed priests before, save on the single occasion when I had before visited the city. I then had seen several upon the sacred boat in the midst of a river procession. But now this figure was near me, approaching me. I held my breath. So that just sort of gives a taste of the beginning of this story. And the story is all sort of a... here's just another design. And we've got the beginning of another chapter here. And we can see these decorations. This one at the top, let's see, it's showing 2 sort of lion heads made out of grape leaves, it looks like, or just some sort of plant life. And another initial capital there. Anyway, this story is sort of a spiritual parable. This is an important section. We can read this. It says, He took my hand and led me under the tall-leaved plants towards the sound of water. How exquisite it seemed to my ears, that soft, bright, musical rhythm. "Here is the home of Our Lady the Lotus," said the man. "Sit down here and look upon her beauty while I work, for I have much to do that you cannot help me in." Nothing loath, indeed, was I to sink upon the green grass and only look in amazement, in wonder, in awe. That water, that delicate-voiced water, lived only to feed the queen of flowers. I said to myself, "Thou art indeed the queen of all flowers imaginable, the white lotus." And as I gazed dreamingly in my youthful enthusiasm upon this white bloom, which seemed to me, with its soft, gold-dusted heart, the very emblem of pure romantic love, as I gazed, the flower seemed to change in shape, to expand, to rise towards me, and lo, drinking at the stream of sweet-sounding water, stooping to take its refreshing drops upon her lips, I beheld a woman of fair skin, with hair like the dust of gold. Amazed, I looked and strove to move towards her, but ere I could make any effort, my whole consciousness left me, and, I suppose, I must have swooned away, for indeed the next that I can recall, I lay upon the grass, with a sense of cool water upon my face, and opening my eyes, I beheld the black-robed, strange-faced gardener leaning over me. So yeah, this story tells the tale of this character who gets sort of brought into training in this priesthood, and then sort of unravels a secret, and it's of spiritual significance. And we can almost imagine the woman the boy saw there in the flower on the cover. So anyway, that's the Idyll of the White Lotus. Thanks so much for watching. If you like that video, feel free to leave us a like or a comment and subscribe, and let us know what you want to see next time. Alright, thanks so much for watching. Okay, bye.